Hello my friends, welcome. You just have seen in the opening these wonderful old tréteaux in front of my pink caravan. To be honest, it's now for weeks that I was waiting for the sunshine for making this video. I'm not the only one in this case. This is why you will hear in the back, you will have the sound of a lawn mower. Of course, this is not without reminding us the video about how to mow your lawn efficiently without being bothered by your power cable. Welcome to this little series about the long straight cuts. 4 videos for this. The first video explains the general principle of making long cuts, and this is not a detail because you will see that there are many things you have to pay attention to, and I warmly recommend you to watch this video if you do this for the first time, because it will save you a lot of issues. Second video is how to make this cut with a jigsaw. Usually it's better with a circular saw, but in case you need to make only one cut, the jigsaw is absolutely fit for purpose. Then a third video about the circular saw. This is of course the best tool for doing such type of operations. And then it can also happen that for any reasons the cut you made is not matching, and this is why I made a 4th video for showing you how to repair such kind of issues. So let's start immediately with the general principles of the long straight cuts. Before starting with the tools, some general principles about the long cuts. The first one is that you have to know where you want to make the cuts. My advice for the longboards is try to keep as much as you can the length of the board, meaning that you have to privilege these places to cut, because as I say, the width can be arranged, but there is no negotiation possible for the length. That's why try to keep the length on your board as much as you can. Another information for the cuts: the precious thing in this board is definitely that it has original cuts coming from the factory, because these cuts are perfectly at 90 degrees. So don't start to cut on both sides, start first to cut on one of the sides. Second piece of information: the borders of these OSB boards, which will be the most common one to cut with a long cut, have these rainures. So here it's the female one, and then you have a male on the other side. You see here the female connection. This here is the male rainure. So think when you're cutting, or even before when you're making the references, to know which is the part you want to cut. By the way, this here is the original piece in which I have cut the Happy Hour TV1 signal. So don't hesitate to watch this little series, which is really very nice, about, among other things, the restoration of the letters. Then there's another important thing, which is the length of your ruler. We will be using the ruler on one hand for making the references on the board for the cut with the jigsaw, and we'll be using the ruler as a guide for the cut with the circular saw. So here the little tip: unless your ruler is long enough, my boards here have classically 2.40 meters, which means that my ruler should be at least of this length, is to buy spare boards, because with spare boards you will see it's really super easy for making on one hand the references for the jigsaw and for using it as a guide for the circular saw. And the last common information for whatever the machine you're using is that you have to be at ease for making your cut. Maybe this is even more important for the jigsaw. So here I've taken this tréteau. As I said, I found them in the street. Here in the middle I have the établi, the little workbench. And all in all, this makes it enough long for making the cut. Of course, it doesn't need to be perfectly even, like when you're putting a turntable on a piece of furniture. Pour le placement de la planche, évidemment, on va s'assurer qu'il y ait assez de retrait sur la table ou l'établi sur laquelle vous la posez, afin de pouvoir couper sans découper ce qu'il y a en dessous. But for making precise markings, which is very important for the long cuts, it is better to use rigid rulers, because here you have more reliability. In line with a video about how to make a huge shelf for free, let's have a quick look on the remains of this operation. I'm a little bit anticipating the end of the series. So I would say in the overall OSB is not a super wood. Nevertheless, here I will be keeping everything because you can always use it for very small works, for fixing small shelves or things like this. And here what is interesting is that I have in the overall rather straight cuts. Of course, as I said, it's important to keep the original sides. So here I'm keeping everything, and maybe just for the anecdote, I made the cuts in a way where I didn't keep the pieces for this etiquette. Nevertheless, this is useful because it's indicating the thickness, which is here 18 millimeters. So here is the cut with a jigsaw, and I have to say that in the overall it's really a good cut, because you can see that everything is really parallel. And then we can have a look here on the cut with a circular saw, and here this is the beginning, and occurs the disaster with this little red screw, which made that here the beginning is a total mess. So always make sure to remove this little screw or any other item which is impeding that the circular saw is well parallel with the guide. That's it, my friends. Now you know all the general principles of the long straight cuts, and we can immediately now turn to the next video, which is how to make a long straight cut with a jigsaw. So see you in a minute on Happy Hour TV1.